welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Coach Julia, and I'm once again in my sewing and craft room, which I was not expecting. This was not part of my plan for the summer. On a very last minute whim, I decided to sign up for a skating competition myself. My first one in 5 years. Now, usually when I go to a competition, I have 10 to 20 skaters competing. It's a very busy day, very busy weekend, and there really isn't enough time for me to focus on myself and skate and still give my skaters the attention that they really deserve. But we have a competition coming up that's out of town, and only 4 of my students decided to go, which meant I was definitely going to go be there for them. I'm going to support them. I'm going to do my job supporting them as a coach. But with it being a 2-day event and 4 skaters, that meant that there would be enough time for me to focus on myself, do some skating, and then turn my attention to my students and still give them the attention that they deserve at a competition. So on the deadline day, I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to sign up. I had no music. I had no costumes. I had no choreography, nothing. I was just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this chance and compete. So I've signed up for 2 events, artistic and footwork, and I can go into those in more detail later on down the road if you want, what exactly those events entail. I am going to be making 2 costumes. We're going to be doing one for the artistic, which I have fabric ordered and it's coming. While I'm waiting for that fabric to arrive for my artistic costume, I'm going to be making something for my footwork program. Now, a little spoiler here, I'm going to be skating to a version of Wellerman. I'm very excited. It's such a fun song. And I've picked a very fast version. I want to be able to fit a lot of footwork in, so I've chosen a fast version of Wellerman. But with the idea that it's a story about a boat out on the ocean, I thought it'd be cool to make a water-themed dress. Now, I have lots of scrap fabric from making myself skating costumes over the years, making them for people who've hired me. Lots and lots and lots of scraps laying around. And I thought it would be a crazy fun challenge to try to make an entire dress just out of scrap fabrics. So I'm going to pull out all the blues and oceany greens that I have, see what I've got, and start designing a dress. I hope it turns out as cool as I imagine. So these are all of the scraps I've gotten out from my stash. This whole section right here is 4-way stretch mesh. You can see here it's kind of a netting material, but it's actually quite stretchy. I use this a lot in skating dresses. It's excellent for skirts, for overlays, for appliques, so I've got a lot of it. We've got this navy blue, a mid blue, this sort of jungle green, an aqua green. So these, I don't know if I'll use a ton of, but I think they add to that oceany color. We've got a mid blue, this beautiful sky blue, which I hand dyed, and an aqua blue. I'm not sure if I'm going to use both of them, but I think that they both will work well with this idea. Moving on to solids, I have a navy blue, this beautiful sky blue. It's a really heavy fabric, so I'm going to use some of this. I have a white, which I'm going to use as the underlayer of the entire dress. This is really heavy again, and I have this really fun shimmery blue-green, which I just think is great for an ocean dress. So that is all the fabric that I'm going to be using for this project. So let's start out getting that pattern. We're going to cut out the panty of the skirt first and sew that together. It's my least favorite part of doing any skating dress, so I like to get it out of the way first so that I'm not dreading it for the entire rest of the time. I'm going to go ahead and pin those pieces together, sew the sides and the bottom, and we have a panty. Next, we're going to put some elastic in those leg holes, just using a nice zigzag stitch, and we have a finished panty, and the part of the project I dread the most is done. Moving on, we're going to get out all of those solids and create the bodice, the top part of this dress. To start with, I'm just going to lay out some of these pieces and kind of get an idea of what I want to do. I know I want to use these colors, but I'm not exactly sure how. I'm thinking if I start with the darkest color at the bottom and work my way up, it's going to kind of be like going from the depths of the ocean to the daylight and sunshine on the top. So I think something like this, dark blue working my way up to the white, is what I'm going to work with. So let's start by cutting out all of these little pieces. I'm just sort of using what I've got. You can see that other things have been cut out of these, so I'm just working around those other cutouts. I really don't have a pattern here. I'm just sort of seeing what makes me happy. So putting some little wave patterns in so that we have movement with the dress. I don't want just solid lines. I want it to move, like visually move. So everything needs to be curves, no straight lines anywhere. Now we're gonna use that white. Again, we're using it as a base layer so it serves like a lining. So everything can be sewn onto that white base layer and keep it nice and sturdy. So we're gonna pin all of those little pieces on. So we have the front and the back, and I try to kind of match the sides so that when I sew the side seams together, it flows across. You don't have weird jagged seams. So I'm going to use coordinating thread, and I'm just going to sew these onto the white backing using a zigzag thread. When you use a zigzag stitch, it's still stretchy, so this is the primary stitch I use for any kind of applique on a skating dress. So every time we switch fabric, we have to switch thread so that we don't have thread that's really obnoxiously clashing with the fabric. Okay, and we have a finished front and back of the bodice. Well, at least the base layer is finished. Next, we're going to move on to those mesh fabrics. So here I am just playing with those mesh fabrics, deciding what kind of a look I want. I definitely want to start with the lighter colors up at the top and then move down to those darker colors as the dress kind of progresses. So we have the baby blues, the seafoam greens, down to the mid blue, and then that navy blue at the bottom. So this is the finished, very, very pinned dress. Every one of those safety pins I'm going to have to take off and mount onto that white with a zigzag stitch. So this is going to be a huge project. I fiddled with this about 4 different times before I got to this, where I was happy with the amount of wrinkling. I didn't want it too wrinkly and I didn't want it super smooth. So this I'm happy with. Now we can go ahead and mount all of these with a zigzag stitch. Before we do that though, I'm going to create a sheer illusion shoulder. So I want one of the shoulders to be a see-through. So I'm going to pin that on, serge it so that it has a really solid stitch, and then it's going to flip up and you'll be able to see through, and that's where I'm going to cut the shoulder out of. So now I'm going to lay the back on, and I'm going to use this as a pattern for the illusion shoulder. So I'm just cutting it out so I don't have to go get my pattern piece again. We're going to pin those together and then serge that back side, and voila, we have an illusion shoulder. Now I'm going to take some elastic. I'm just going to run that elastic around the neckline of the whole dress. Now that we have that neckline done, I'm going to go ahead with that very lightest color, that baby blue, and we're going to do the shirring, pin the shirring into place with the baby blue and then that beautiful seafoam blue. And then the shirring will finally be done. I'll be ready to take it to the sewing machine. So for every one of those pins, I'm just going to run a little zigzag stitch, remove the pin, do a stitch, remove the pin, do a stitch, all the way across the entire bodice. And that's what we have. So this is the finished shirring. I think it looks really beautiful. I'm super happy with how it came out. Every time I changed colors, I had to change thread, and you can see that so that the thread doesn't stand out. It just blends right in with the fabric. So this is looking really cool so far. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the invisible zipper in and then sew the side seams so that we have a completed bodice. And then I've decided to add a little shoulder piece. I'm just taking a little square of fabric. I'm going to pin it on there just willy-nilly. I'm not really concerned with this being perfect, so I'm going to just kind of trim it into a round shape, and then I'll stitch that onto the armhole, and then we can kind of fold that armhole over and it'll be done. So we have a finished bodice, we have a finished panty, and off camera I cut out a skirt. So we're going to put them all together, and then the dress is just about done. So I start by pinning the skirt to the panty, and then I pin the entire piece to the bodice. And then once it's all pinned together, I'm going to take it over to that serger, and we're going to do our final seam. Okay, skaters, the sewing portion of this dress project is complete. This dress is completely wearable the way it is. I did add a little hook and eye right up here at the top to give the zipper some added security. I think that's the only thing I did off camera, but the rest of it you guys got to watch, and it's so pretty. Look at that. I love that it really does look to me like water. There's so much movement in this dress. I love how the shoulder accents here, and it kind of cross accents with this little bit on the hip. The blue wraps down from the waist down into like this waterfall on the skirt, and I think that's a nice sort of cross contrast with the shoulder up here. It's also really cool to me how this shiny fabric that I used, that had the little glitter on it, when you cover it with the mesh, it looks like the way water, the top surface of water, sparkles when the sunlight hits it. Oh, it's so pretty. I'm very, very happy with how this came out. It's what I imagined. So this, like I said, the sewing portion of this dress is done, but you know, I don't like a dress to just be plain. I want those sparkles. I want it to glitter when it's out on the ice. So if you come back on Thursday the 13th, that's this Thursday, you will get to watch a second part 2 of this video where I will be putting a ton of crystals on this dress. And I have some seashells and some starfish that are going to go on there as well to kind of carry on that water ocean theme. I am excited for part 2. That's the second half of the creative process. You make the dress, then you decorate the dress. So come back on Thursday for part 2. And you want to come back on Sunday the 23rd, where I am going to be doing a vlog of the whole competition, and you will get to see these dresses with the music. I'm going to be uploading videos from the competition, so you'll get to follow along with me and see how the whole competition day went. So join me on the 13th for decorating this dress and the 23rd for competition day. Okay, skaters, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please do give us that thumbs up. And as always, I'm looking forward to reading all those comments in the section down below. If you haven't done so yet, then hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell so you can see all my videos when they come out. Happy skating, and I'll see you next time.